Okay, welcome everybody to the District 6270 webinar. We're going to be going over the new Club Central. I am TJ Rinaldi. I'm your district trainer. And with me is our distinguished governor, Jeff Reed. And I will be introducing him in a minute. There he is, waving to us if you can see us online, given the wonderful world of technology here. And I just wanted to bring to your attention a couple of items. This session is being recorded. You do have the benefit, since you are live, to ask questions. We will ask, though, I'm going to keep you muted, and we'll ask that there will be a time of the session when you can unmute yourself and then ask questions after Jeff is done presenting, since we have a larger group today. Secondly, you have on the right side of your screen a pane, GoToWebinar pane that if you logged in online, you will see. If you're calling in, you can just listen to us. But if you logged in online, you'll be able to see there's a handout section that's one of these gray line items. If you open that up, there's actually 3 documents for you that you can download there. We will make those available to you at a later date as well, but I do recommend that you open those, save them if you want. One of which is has to do with our trainers team, and that's the facilitators application. I'm going to just open that for a moment here. If I open this facilitators application, you're going to see that what we're asking for from the district, from each of your clubs, if you have 1 or 2 people that have an interest in teaching material or acting as a person to engage other Rotarians in group settings. You'll see at the bottom here we have all the different topics that may be available. We're putting together right now a group of vetted facilitators, whose first project is going to be the One Rotary Summits, which in our district we have 6 of them starting in September and ending in November this fall. And we're very excited to put together what we believe to be the best sessions yet. So if we could put together a team, we are asking for you to send us 1 or 2 people. They would fill out this application, get it on to me. My contact information is at the bottom, and we can move forward with that. There are 2 webinars where we are going to train our facilitators. In the beginning of September, you'll see that in the handout as well. So I am now going to hand the presentation over to our governor, Jeff Reed, and he's going to teach us the new Club Central that was just unveiled recently. Jeff, go right ahead.
Thank you. TJ, I want to suggest one thing too. If somebody has a question, they just don't understand something I'm going over, if they can get a message to you, we can stop at that point and handle that message just for clarity's sake. Can you do that?
Absolutely. You can raise a hand on your panel. You can also chat in the chat box, and you can also type a question in. I will be muting myself, and I will be online working to type the answers back to you, or I will come interrupt you, Jeff, and we can stop the session as well.
That's fine. Thank you. I don't want to have questions unanswered if there's something that people are not understanding. Thank you, DJ.
Yes.
Okay, are we ready?
Handing over to you right now.
All right, thank you. Let me know when you can see my screen, DJ.
You're all set.
Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring up Rotary.org. I'm going to be your host today, as TJ said. Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here and doing this with you. I intended this webinar when we talked about it for club officers. That is the people who will be working with Club Central, making changes, improvements, setting goals, and then statusing goals. So that's what this is intended for. As TJ said, we'll archive this and make it available for people who are not able to see it today. So if you can pass the word on, that would be great. Our goal is to review this portal, the Club Central portal. We've allocated, as TJ said, about 60 minutes, so we should be done in an hour. And as you know, Club Central is where you are reporting your goals for your club. Um, as you know, the people that can edit on Club Central are those people who are registered as one of the 6 officers of a club. That is the president, the secretary, the treasurer, the membership chair, the foundation chair, or the executive secretary. One of the things that we always recommend is that you have a lead person and probably want to have a backup just in case something happens to that person. So that's what we're going to be talking about today for that group of people. Now, I want to show you this and how we're going to get into it. I'm starting from the Rotary.org website. That's what I entered here. Okay. And I'm going to start by doing my login here on my Rotary up at the top of the screen. So I'm going to log in here. So I'm going to walk you through this stuff. There we go. I've now logged in. Actually, I logged in a few minutes ago, so that's why the login screen didn't come up. Now I'm going to go down to Manage. In the middle of the menu bar here, you see this window, this menu that's called Manage. And if you go down on the left column where you see Club and District Administration, down at the bottom of that you see Rotary Club Central. So that's where you're going to want to go. So you select that to get into Rotary Club Central. Oh, now I'm going to have to sign in again because it really wants me to authenticate myself and make sure I'm really one of those officers that can do editing of Club Central. So we're going to go down to Club Central. I just clicked sign in. Okay, so I'm getting into Club Central. Now, as you know, it's been redesigned. So this is a very different look and feel than what we had before. When you come in, you're going to start out with the dashboard. As you look at this, you notice at the top, okay, it says Rotary Club Central. The top of this bar, the white text on blue, tells you where you are. Notice down on the left side, you have a section for Dashboard, Goal Center, Global View, Service Activities, Resources, Reports. Now, there are some things that I can do as a district governor that you can't do. So as we go through the seminar today, you'll probably see some menu items and things that you can't get to, but I've got access to. We'll be focusing on the things that you can do here. All right? And so, as I said, we got the menu items down the left. The top of the page shows you where we are, and then you note that there are some sub-menus here for the dashboard. I'm going to switch now to the Goal Center. Okay, that's where I want to start, is the Goal Center. So I selected Goal Center. Now you can see we're in the Goal Center here, and I'm going to look at, okay, all club, not all club groups, but I'm going to be looking at Fond du Lac Morning Rotary. I talked to our president this morning, and I said, I want to use Fond du Lac Morning Rotary as the demo model for how we're going to talk about, again, registering goals and statusing those goals. So that's the club I'm focusing on. So what you see here is we're in the Rotary Club of Fond du Lac Morning. You see right in the middle of that page, the white top, we're in 1718. We could go back to look at 1617, or we could go ahead to look at 1819. I'm going to be focusing today on 1718. As club president or secretary is working with this year, you want to make sure that you're working in the current year. If you look at the right side of the page, you may find that at some point, the upper right, you want to print one of these screens. So you can go into print and actually make a copy, a hard copy of what you're looking at here if you want to share it with your board or somebody else. So the printing some of these screens is possible. Not all of them, but some of them. Now, when we look at this Goal Center, we notice that it's not only a new layout, but you notice that there are now a series of tabs across the top. We're right now in the Members and Engagement tab. We could look at the foundation giving tab, the service, young leaders, public image, Rotary citation, or all. What the all does is it brings together on one screen all of the goals that you could set for your club. I want to come back to members and engagement. So we're in Goal Center on members engagement for a club. Now, as you look down here, what we see is that there's at the top here a button called Edit. If you're one of those people that can edit, this Edit button will be available to you, and you can go into an edit mode. Now, as we look down here, we see there's a section for club membership, for service participation, for new member sponsorship, Rotarian Action Group participation, and so forth. So we got a number of categories there. But what I want to do is I want to take a look first at club membership, and I'm going to expand that. Any of these blue items are things that can be expanded. So what you see here is the club has set a goal of 87 members for the year. When I open it up now for editing, you can see the detail where you can see that the goal history for the last 5 years suggested that in 2016-17, we got a blue bar that said, here was the achievement. The achievement was 85. The goal was 84. You see the same thing in the table over on the right. What was the goal in each of these years, and what was the actual achievement in terms of membership in each of these years? You see the little key down in the lower left of the graph. So you see achievement is blue and goal is red. Okay, so the club has decided that they're going to set a goal of 87 members. They were at 84 at the end of the year, 16-17. So they're going to be growing a little bit. So we would say they're setting a goal of +3 or 87. When you set your goal, you want to set what the total number of members is going to be for the year. I'm going to go in here and edit, show you about editing this now. So I'll select Edit. Okay. So now what you see is the little check mark here over on the upper right corner in this section. That means that the club has, in fact, said we're going to select this as one of the goals we're going to make, the goals we're going to set. And you notice the box here around the number 87 under goals. So that box means that's something that is editable. Over here under achievement to the left, 83, that's not editable. There is no box for editing there. If I wanted to, if I were one of the officers who were doing this, I could change this. I could make it 90 instead of 87. So that would be a little bit of a stretch for the club, going from 84 to 90 over the year. But that's what I would be. That's what you could do as the person who's making these changes. And then when you were done with that, you would come over here where we have the green button. It changed from edit to now it says save. So if I wanted to change this, I could save this now. The new goal for this year is 90, and we've now saved it. Now we come back to the edit. So we've now just uploaded to RI the new goal of 90 members for the year for the club. Brandon, I'll change this later, okay? I promise.
Hey, Jeff, can I chime in 1 minute? I've got John Hannes on the line.
Okay, John.
And he's letting us know, I just want to let you know, he says he wants to plan to seed in case some questions come in from attendees who are current officers, but
okay.
If they cannot see the edit button on their panel, it's likely they haven't been reported to the database for RI. So it can be addressed really quickly. They just email John Hannes, and we'll make that available. It's john.hannes, H-A-N-N-E-S, at rotary.org. Or they just send their full officer list to data@rotary.org. And John can make that the parameters correct for them.
Thank you, TJ. Thank you for that notice. Yes, I just was at a club in the last couple of days where one of the officers wasn't yet registered as having edit capability on the website. So yeah, that's something we need to get taken care of so that people who are authorized can in fact do the editing on the website. So thank you, John. Okay, so we've looked at that, and we could go down and edit other sections. We could edit, what's your goal in terms of what do you expect in terms of the number of new members you're going to bring in terms of how many people are going to sponsor new members, or how do you have people that are participating in one of the Rotarian Action Group discussions, okay? So that's all stuff that you can set up as a goal if you would like to do that. So what I'm going to do now before Brendan gets too panicked, I'm going to go back and change that goal from 90 back to 87, which is what the club had left it at, or what the goal had submitted, the club had submitted. So we'll go back and submit, okay, Brendan, you're okay now. It's a goal of 87 for the year. All right. I want to take a look next. I want to move over to foundation giving. Now, there are two big things here in foundation giving. As you remember, we've got the annual fund in Rotary Foundation, and we've got also the Polio Plus Fund. Keep remembering that those are two separate funds. So when people make a contribution to the annual fund, that's not going directly to polio. But when people make polio contributions, that's not part of the annual fund. So we look at it, see, and the club has set a goal of $6,500 for the annual fund and $1,750 for Polio Plus. If we wanted to edit that, we could again go in, same way, display what's happened. We can again see what's the history for the last few years. So, for example, last year the club set a goal of $6,250 for the annual fund, and they actually achieved $8,677. So they overachieved on the goal. So the club is setting a goal again for this year of $6,500. If we went into edit mode again, we would be able to edit what's the goal, and as you can see, okay, now our goal is $6,500. It's surrounded by the box, so you can edit that. The check mark indicates that the club has decided to edit that, to set that as a goal. I'm going to go down a little bit further. In edit mode now, what we also have is not only Polio Plus contributions, but we have also, when I selected the edit button, all the other things that I can edit in this category were now displayed. Now, there's not a button here to say turn editing off, but what I found is that if you go to another section on the menu on the left, like the dashboard, that cancels your edit mode. So if you come back to Goal Center, we go back into Rotary Foundation Giving, edit is turned off. So all we can see now is the two areas where the club has actually set goals, annual fund and Polio Plus. So that's how you can cancel if you go to another section of the Club Central website. And so we've got two goals here, a goal for annual fund and Polio Plus. I want to go on and look at the next section here, which is service. Now what this is telling me is just very simply the number of service projects the club is going to do. I'm setting up edit. Okay, the club said, yeah, we're going to do some service projects. They selected that goal. Okay, but that's all we can see here. And what I'm going to do is something a little bit different. If you notice the left-hand menu, we've got the dashboard, goal center, global view, and service activities. Service activities on the left is where you really define what those service projects are. So what are the projects that you're going to do? You could either, and you see now we are in the section of the menu that is for service projects, service activities, see that up at the top of the window. For Fond Like Morning Rotary, we could either add a new service project or repeat a past service project. What I'm going to do is or the third thing we can do is to import something from the Rotary Showcase. I'm going to focus now on repeating a past service project, okay? So now one of the past service projects is Lighting for Literacy in Zambia. Suppose the club wanted to continue that. You could just simply say, select that, okay, and then say copy project, okay? So now we've entered that in our Club Central database for this coming year, 17-18, Lighting for Literacy in Zambia. Okay, but now maybe we're going to change that, and it's not in Zambia. Maybe it's in Uganda. So Lighting for Literacy in Uganda, or maybe it's in Guatemala. You can change that now. You can provide a summary, and then one of the things they want you to do is give us a start date. When is this project going to start? So we're going to start this project. Bring up the calendar. Let's say we actually started this project back on July 6th. Okay? So we've now entered that date. Okay? We can enter other information about project metrics, the number of volunteers that would be involved, total number of volunteer hours, etc. We can, what we have here, you can see in this left-hand column is what we reported in the past. So last year reported 10 volunteers, 50 volunteer hours, and $3,000 in contributions. We can project for this year, let's say we're going to do 10 volunteers again, and let's say we're going to do 50 volunteer hours and $3,000 in cash contributions again. Now, we don't know yet what the actuals are, but what you have to remember is you have to come back and report what did you actually achieve to get that recorded. So that's what you'll have to do at the end. When you come back to report your progress, when the project is done, you also want to select this Project Complete button to indicate that the project was complete. But so now we've gotten started here. We've said what we think we're going to do in terms of projected, achieved, everything else. So I'm going to come up to the top here, and now the button's in a little bit different place, but see up in the upper right hand corner, we could either say cancel this entry, that is we could get rid of what we just done, or we could save. So we're going to save that one. Okay. So now as we look at this screen, what we see is there is a current project that we have proposed, Lighting for Literacy in Guatemala. Okay. And there it is, so we can see it. I'm going to cancel out of that. It's still there. We entered that. Okay. So Lighting for Literacy in Guatemala. Okay. Now, suppose we wanted to enter something new. Suppose we wanted to put in a project. We could, over on the left, say, add a new service project. So we could put in a new service project here. And let's say this service project is called Early Literacy. And we might want to put in a description of this project. Parents, or let's call it teaching or train teaching parents to read to children age birth, if I could spell, to 18 months. Okay, so now we provide a description for that project. And let's suppose that, again, that project is something that's just started recently. Let's suppose it started on the 17th of July. And let's suppose that we expect that we're going to have 5 volunteers, and we're going to have a total of, let's say, 40 hours from these volunteers, and we're going to see $1,000 in cash contributions. Okay. So now we can report that. So we've now saved. So we've got one project that is a new project and one that's an ongoing project, but both of those are current projects. Notice that on the left, nothing shows up as a completed project. If we look down at the bottom of the window, what we see is a summary of number of projects, volunteer hours, cash contributions, and value of donated goods and services. And you notice there's nothing recorded in the achievements section because we haven't achieved anything. We haven't reported achieving anything yet. Now I want to flip. Now remember, you could print this if you wanted to print this. So if you want to go back to your club chair of the service activities, you could print this and show it to them in a meeting or whatever. But I'm going to go back to the goal center now, and let's take a look at the goal center and look at service activities. Now, what do we have here? Well, we've got a goal of 4, but nothing else is showing up there. Okay, let's see. Still nothing is showing up there. 17, 18, nothing is showing up. Why is nothing showing up there? Well, nothing is showing up there because the only thing that's going to show up here is the goal and what's actually been achieved here. So let's go back to service activities again. Now let's pretend, for example, that we've started our early literacy. So I'm going to go into it, and I'm going to provide some status on our early literacy. What I'm going to say is our end date, let's say today is the 10th. Let's say the end date was the 7th of August. And we actually did achieve 5 people, 40 hours. And we did actually contribute $1,000 to that project. Okay? And let's come back up here and let's save that. Nope, before we save that, I want to do one more thing. We're done with the project. We successfully completed the project. So we now say project complete. And we're going to save that. Now what happens is we look down our scorecard here. We see that we've got 1 completed project and 1 current project that's ongoing. Now if we go over to our goal center, let's see what we've got here in our goal center under service. And look what we've got. Now we have achieved 1 project has been completed against our goal of 4 projects. So that's when we'll begin to see achievement in this service tab. Okay? So you won't see achievement there until the project's actually been completed. I'm going to move on then to take a look at young leaders. So young leaders is looking at things like Rotaract clubs, Interact clubs. If we edit, you can see it also involves inbound youth exchange, outbound youth exchange, and RILA participation. If we go on to public image, you see, okay, the club has said, okay, we're going to work with the strategic plan, the online presence. Okay, what does online presence look like? Let's show some details here. Okay, the club says we've done the online presence in the past. The goal in the past was, yes, we did it. Okay? Let's take a look down a little further. Social activities. The club says their goal is 12 social activities for the year. Okay, so we've selected that goal, 12, and last year achieved 12 on the goal of 12. So we've got the ability to put in social activities, how much you're going to update your website or your social media, how many stories are you going to put in the press. So that's all things that you can set up here. I'm going to cancel out of that. Okay, we'll come back to the goal center. Young leaders. Public image, okay, that's what we just looked at, and let's look at the Rotary citation. Now, this isn't what I thought it was going to be when I first went in to look at Rotary citation. I thought it was going to be everything, but basically what this is this is everything that's a citation kind of thing that's not anywhere else in here. So what you'll see is there are a few things here, but it's not all the citation activities. We'll get to that in a couple minutes. The last column here is the all category. What the all category does is it gives you a summary of all the goals that you've set here within Club Central. So as you look down here, you'll see every place where we've set a goal, okay, it shows up in this all category. So it's a nice summary of what you're doing. So if you wanted to print a summary for your board of directors, you could print, here's the print of all the goals that you've set for this year. So you could come up here on the right portion of the screen and select a print and print that. Okay. Now, some people want to get reports. Okay. So how can we get reports? One of the reports that you might want to do is going over into the reports section And what you can see here is there's a report. You can get a report on the growth of your club. So let's take a look at the growth of the club. We're in reports in Club Central. We're in the tab Members and Engagement. We have 3 tabs here: Members Engagement, Service, and Rotary Foundation Giving. Okay, so we can go in here. You only have access to the reports that your authentication says you can have. There's stuff that I have as district governor that you can't see because you don't have access to that. But you will have access to everything that you're going to be able to do. But again, so you can come in here and say, let's get a report on our club's growth. How are we doing on club growth? Now what it will do is it will go out to the Rotary database and suck that into a template, and it's now creating that report real time. So we're getting the report real time based on the data that's in the RI database about membership growth. And so okay, it's creating the report. And so now what you see is how is the growth going for the club. And so what you see is overall 15-16, 16-17, what was the growth looking like at various points in time along the way. So we can see that. And now I just flipped to the second page of this report. We were on the first page. Down in the bottom of the window, you here see some back and forward arrows, very lower ribbon here. You see we're on page 2 of 2. We'll come back to page 1 of 2. So we can see what's going on in terms of this data. So page 1, this is club growth for the year for Fond du Lac Morning Rotary. Okay, so that's where we are. In July 1 of 2016, they were 81 members. So we see 31 July of 16, they were at 83. They lost a member in August. They were flat in August, gained a member in September, gained a member in October, and then you can go on for the remainder of the year and see that the club ended up the year at 85, which is a 5% growth for this club over that period of a year. If you go down to the bottom of the window again, you can see, oh, we can get a club growth chart. Okay, so we can see this is the charted data. We can also get club growth, a district chart that shows us how the district is doing over that period of time. Okay. So we can get that chart. Okay. Let's come back to club growth. Okay, so we've got that. Now we can, if you wanted to, if you go up to the top in the window, at the top of the window, you see where it says Web Intelligence. To the right of that, you can, if you want to, export this as, for example, a PDF, or you can export it as an Excel document. So if you want to be able to manipulate this, edit this, whatever, you could edit this, export it as an Excel document, or you could set it as a PDF document or some other form. So you can actually export this document and then use it. Okay. So those are some things that you can do with this particular report. Okay, I'm going to clear out of that one now. So we talked about the Goal Center here and talked about the Rotary Citation. And I told you, okay, this thing called the Rotary Citation here within Club Central only gives you a few things. If we select Edit, you'll see it's still only a few things, not everything that you would see in the Rotary Citation. You know, if you've looked at the brochure, either electronically as the PDF or the hard copy, you know that it's divided into 3 categories. A category for clubs and strengthening and supporting clubs, a category for humanitarian service, and a category for public image. Well, we're not, this stuff in Club Central isn't organized that way, and it doesn't, it's not obvious how this translates to the Goal Center. From the Goal Center in Club Central into the Rotary citation for this year. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go get at this a different way, because this is how we get at it. So I'm going to open another window here, another tab. I'm going to come back into Rotary.org again. So in Rotary.org, and I'm going to come back into my Rotary. Okay, so we're in my Rotary, and I'm going to come back into Manage again. So now I'm going to go down and Manage again, and the left side, Club and District Administration. I'm going to this time I'm going to go over to Reports. So I'm going to pull up Reports. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to look at reports that we could get that would provide us the data that we want to have. And it's divided into individual reports and club reports. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into this section for club reports. And so what we're going to do is go down until we get to the section that's called Awards and Rotary Citations. So when you want to get your understanding of how are we doing on the Rotary citation for 2017-18, you're going to come in here under Reports, under Awards, Rotary Citation, and say View the Rotary Club Report. Okay? So we're going to view the Rotary Club Report. As we review the Rotary Club Report, we could look at last year's dashboard, or we can look at this year's dashboard. So let's pull up this year's Rotary Citation dashboard. That's the 17-18 dashboard. So we're pulling that up now. It's going out to the RI database and sucking in the data. So we now have the Rotary Citation dashboard. It's for Rotary Club of Fond du Lac Morning, club number, district number, and the club has currently achieved 0 of 4 citation categories. Now, if you looked at the brochure, you remember in the brochure there were a couple things that we reported that were mandatory activities for the citation. First is paying your dues on time, paying the July and the January 18 dues on time. So July invoice, 2017 invoice, January 18 invoice. Okay, well, have they been paid? Yes or no? Has the goal been achieved? Yes or no? Okay. And then reporting volunteer hours and service project contributions. Volunteer hours, service project contributions. Nope, they haven't been reported yet, so the goal has not been achieved. Now, you're going to ask me, well, where do I report that? I didn't see that. Well, so let's go back to Rotary Club Central. I'm going to leave this here. Going to go back to Rotary Club Central. Where do you report that? Go back to the Rotary Citation now, the tab under the Rotary Citation. Once you, I'm going to come out of this to the dashboard, come back in here. Goal Center. So I'm under Goal Center and Rotary Citation. Well, where is it? Where is it? Doesn't say anything about number of service hours. Well, you've got to go in and edit. So you say edit and select this as a goal. Now, what's your goal for service hours? And then as you report service hours, okay, you're going to report your service hours, and that's going to show up here. So you select service hours, select service total service project contributions. But remember, those are not going to show up until you say edit this section, and then you can go in there and start reporting what your volunteer hours are. So maybe we haven't set a goal yet, but let's suppose we're saying, okay, 100 volunteer hours and let's say $250 in contributions. Let's save that. Okay, so it shows up now. Now what should happen is we should now go over here and eventually, now there's going to be a transport time between when we put the data in and when it actually gets registered in the database, but eventually what will happen is over on the side here where we're looking at the citation dashboard, eventually we would see over here number of volunteer hours and service project contributions. I'm going to do a refresh on the screen to see if it's hit yet. So it's now going out to the database and pulling the database, pulling it in. But my guess is probably where I have several different databases here, so it hasn't made the jump, hasn't made the transfer to, in fact, go from what I input to where I'm going to get it back. My advice would be you probably want to make wait a day between when you do your updates and when you look at your citation dashboard. But let's look at the rest of the citation dashboard. If you looked at the brochure, you remember it's in 3 areas: supporting and strengthening clubs, focusing and increasing humanitarian service, enhancing Rotary's public image and awareness. So we've got activities here that mirror the activities that are in the hard copy brochure: club activities, humanitarian service activities, and public image activities. And so what you can see is, okay, Fond Lake Morning Rotary Club has now achieved 1 because it's green. So they've set at least 10 goals in Club Central. So they've set 25 goals. So that's now green. It's yes, they've met the criterion. Let's see, achieve a net gain in membership. Okay, what's their member count? It's 83. So, okay, for a small club, you have to have a net of +1. For a large club, it's net 2. So, okay, right now it's looking at green. I'm a little bit suspicious of that. But we'll have to monitor that. So what you see is, as the things go from not achieved, they're recorded in pink, to achieved, they become recorded in green over here on the Rotary Citation Dashboard. Okay, so that's our citation dashboard. That's where you're going to get the feedback on what you've done as a club to set your goals and then achieve your goals. And don't forget, you have to report your status for it to be showing up here in the citation. Okay, so we're going to come back over here to Rotary Club Central. We talked about the dashboard. The dashboard, that's where we came in the beginning. This gives us a very high-level overview of the club. So you can see here the membership trends graph, what's happening for the club, the gender trends graph for the club. So it's really important to enter the gender of each Rotarian. So fortunately, the club has reported for all of their members their gender. Age trends. We know that some Rotarians are hesitant to provide their year of birth because they don't want to know anybody to know how old they are. But, you know, when we do that, we have people that show up as not reported, unreported. Notice that the club here has 29 people who are unreported. So are those 29 out of the 85 people? We don't know if those 29 are in 29 or under, or if they're 70 or over. We don't know what category they're in. What that means is Rotary is not able to get a good handle on the demographic, where we said we want to have an increase in female membership and we want to have an increase in under 40 membership. With these 29 people not reporting, we don't know, are they in these 2 categories that represent the 39 and under. So that's a concern. But if you can get your members to report their year of birth, that would be helpful. We also see the summary for project trends in terms of funding, what's going on there, and project trends in terms of volunteers. So remember, I just put in that information a little bit ago. Okay, so that's showing up here. And then annual fund trends in terms of giving to the annual fund. So that stuff is showing up here on our very high level dashboard for the club. So the dashboard, the goal center, we talked about service activities, so that's what I wanted to talk about, and reports. It's now 5:15, and I guess it's time to open this up for questions, if anybody has any questions.
Hey, Jeff, I'm going to invite anybody who's got a question to go ahead and unmute themselves. You
Okay.
can go ahead and do that and just chime in.
All right.
Hey, Brendan, you had a question regarding how often we should update. Can you pose that to the group, please? Oh, he muted himself back on. Maybe he doesn't want to talk. Oh, here he
Oh,
is.
okay. You're asking me. I'm sorry. Yeah, I was just, Jeff, how often do you recommend that we do the updates?
I would
Monthly?
recommend. Yeah, I would recommend if you're able to do it, you try to do it about once a month, just to get in a regular schedule, in the habit of making sure those updates get done.
Okay. And are the service projects
Yep.
module, is that new to Central? I didn't see that earlier.
It's a very, it was sort of there in the past, but it was sort of, let me say it, this is not very politically correct, but it was, I think, pretty clunky and hard to do. So I think it's much cleaner and easier to do, but the service activity is what you're talking about. That was there in the past. I think it's much cleaner and easier to negotiate and deal with now.
Okay. Well, I'll work on that, absolutely.
Okay.
Jeff, we also had a question from Tammy Coop regarding service projects. If they're only one day, like they happen on a certain day, we could still enter that, right?
Sure we can. I mean,
Yeah.
if you have 25 people working for 8 hours on a project, why wouldn't you report that? That's still a service project. Maybe who knows what you're doing? Maybe you're spending a lot of time on a Habitat for Humanity build, or maybe you're packing food to be sent to Zambia. Sure, you can report a one-day project. Any other questions?
I had a hand up from Rosa.
Rosa, okay.
I cannot unmute her, though. So, Rosa, if you want to unmute yourself, go ahead. Also, John Hannes, you had your hand up, John. I'm going to unmute you, John. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for letting me sit in on this session, and thanks to Jeff and TJ for putting this together. It looks wonderful. What I'd like to add about the Goal Center, or the service activities section of the Goal Center,
Sure.
is that, yes, it is pretty new, and Jeff, you're absolutely correct. We're not embarrassed to say that it was clunky. Like, that's why we make
like I said, John, it's not politically correct, but I think it's accurate.
It's accurate. But what we've been able to do with the release of Rotary Club Central is make it a lot more mobile friendly. So if you have a smartphone, a lot of this translates really well into what your screen would look like. So if you do want to come back in and do some of these updates on a monthly basis, that's okay. But if you come in, yep, there you go. You can kind of see how it's really simplifying down. One recommendation that I have is for anybody that is involved in your service projects, any of those club officers that Jeff mentioned earlier are able to come into this tool through their mobile device, click on their, their current service projects area and mark them complete from on site. So you don't have to wait to get home. If you're standing amidst the 8 people that are volunteering their time, do your quick head count, say, yep, we've all given our hours, here's the time. Before you even get in your car, you could have that part reported.
John, thank you. That's a good point. Now, notice the screen looks a little bit different. You got the hamburger icon over here on the left. So what the hamburger icon is going to do is it's going to expose this so that suppose when you came in, where would you come in? Anytime you bring up Club Central, you're going to bring up the dashboard, that high-level summary, and this is what you're going to see on your device. If you suppose you got a G8, Samsung G8, this is what you're going to see. You go up to the hamburger icon here. So you want to go to service activities. Now that'll move you to the service activities screen, and you can say, oh, this is a new service project here. We're doing whatever. We're planting trees or whatever. Put in the project title here, and then you can report the rest of that information. If you're using a tablet, well, the tablet's going to look more like this, okay? But you still have that hamburger icon there that allows you to navigate around. okay, that gets you where you need to go to report what you're reporting. But I think that's a good thing that John mentioned is, yeah, you can report this stuff right where you are when you're on that project that you're working on. Thank you, John.
Hey Jeff, we have a question from Rosa Sugo Golden,
Yep,
and she's
sure.
she's asking what you would consider how you calculate a volunteer hour. How would that? I mean, how would you calculate an actual volunteer hour?
You know, I've asked for guidelines from RI, and maybe John can chime in. I can give you what I think, and then maybe John can tell me if there's been any more work at it at RI. I mean, I would say if you're working on a project, the hour is an hour. It's 60 minutes or close to an hour, 50 minutes, 55, 60, that to me is basically you're working on the project for an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours. So that's what I would look at is how many hours you're working on the project. Now, some people have asked me, well, if I'm working on planning the project, we're going to be doing tree planting, and we got this group of 3 people that are working on planning that project. Where are we going to do it? When are we going to do it? How are we going to get it funded, et cetera, et cetera. For me, that's all part of the project, so you want to keep track of that set of planning hours from those people that were planning the project, as well as the activity where people are actually out there planting the trees. Okay? So
We have John on the line.
Pardon?
We have John on the line.
Okay, John.
Yeah, I would agree with what was just said, that we aren't really able to tell you exactly what that number is. I think that's important for the club to decide on their own. And as Jeff was saying, if a club member is unable to attend the actual tree planting ceremony, or maybe they're physically not capable of doing that type of, hard labor, but they've organized all of the work that goes into getting that event to be a success, why not count that information? The important thing to know about here in Club Central, when working on projects and trying to calculate those hours, what we're looking for is the total number of hours dedicated to that project. So if you had 10 people working 10 hours, that box should say 100 hours completed because you've multiplied it by the number of people participating. We're not looking for, one person put in 10 hours, so you're going to put 10 in that box. We want the full impact of what this project is able to do for your community or for the global community. And you can feel free to put in those types of activities in there. A little bit further down, there's another section there, if you don't mind scrolling down, Jeff.
Sure.
That talks about the categories as well. So
Right.
if this is a project that you are, doing as a community fundraiser or are something that you're doing that's related to, young leaders or vocational, those can all be identified and cataloged there. The second set of items there are if you have any project partners. So did you work with Rotaract or Interact? This all gets cataloged, and it's just going to be useful information for the future.
So for example, suppose you're doing a project and you're working with the Boy Scouts or the Girl Scouts, or you're working with Big Brothers and Big Sisters. You could report that as a partner that is another organization. Or maybe you're working with the Lions Club or the Kiwanis Club. You can report that as a partner that's other. Okay, so that could be reported here as well. John, thank you for that. Yes. Rosa, does that answer the question?
She said yes, it did.
Okay, good. Are there other questions?
I do not have any hands up at this time, Jeff, but we'll ask one more time. If you do have a question, either go ahead and raise your hand, I'll get to you, or go ahead and unmute yourself and ask away. Well, it looks like we're set, Jeff.
All right.
Do you mind if I break in with a couple of tips?
Yes.
All right. Sorry, everyone, this is John Hannes again. Just a couple of things to keep in mind while you're also working with the tool. One thing that I like to promote to people is to keep their goal as the goal. We at Rotary won't set a date that is a freeze date on any of these goals, but that doesn't mean that your club couldn't say, okay, by August 15th, we're going to have all of our goals entered and set. some people I think are tempted to let those goals change as the year goes by. And I think that, we're not going to stop you from doing that, but it might be hurtful for the data that you're trying to collect. So say you went in and said that you wanted to do 4 service projects this year, but by the midpoint of the year, you're on track to do at least 6. I think some people are tempted to come into the tool and adjust the goal out in the goal center and say, you know what, our goal is now 6 service projects. I think it's okay to let yourself overachieve and surpass that goal so that next year, as people are planning their own goals for the year, they're able to say, you know what, we thought we were going to do 4, we ended up doing 6. Our new goal this year is going to be 6. I think try to fight that temptation if you can. I think that was the last little point that I wanted to offer there is just sort of a tip. Again, we're not going to stop you, we're not going to police you, and nobody at Rotary is going to look at these goals and your achievements and say, you know what, they're underachieving their goals, let's shut them down. Instead, it just helps us identify some areas that we can be of assistance with you.
And if I could, John, thank you very much. If I could go back to what we asked, what Ian Risley asked us for. He asked us for 2 numbers. He said, I want 2 numbers, volunteer hours and service project contributions, dollars. It's still not showing up. So again, it's going to take 24 hours for that data to filter back in. Remember, where are you going to report that information? Total volunteer service hours and total service project contributions is over here under Rotary Citation, but you got to select Edit, and then you got to decide that, okay, this is a goal that we're going to set.
We've had some questions on this also about why this is sectioned off into the Rotary Citation section rather than the information feeding from service activities and projects out to the citation dashboard. And the response there is that while you're keeping track of all of the activity under that service and activities area, that's something that's going to remain constant from year to year. But the Rotary Citation may have different requirements next year. So we didn't build in the ability for that data to transfer automatically here because we just didn't see that the sort of behind-the-scenes effort was worth it if the volunteer hours and service project hours were going to be specific to Ian Risley's year of presidency. So
thank you, John.
You may feel like you're doing double entry there, but you only have to come to this section of the citation dashboard just once.
Right. Now, what I've talked to a number of clubs, and what a number of clubs are doing is they're actually creating their own little tally sheet. Some of them are doing it on paper, some of them are doing it on Excel, and maybe it's the secretary or the treasurer or the president that's just keeping a monthly record of what are they doing in terms of volunteer hours and what are they doing in terms of contributions, and they're just updating that on a monthly basis. So remember, what you're putting in here on Club Central is whatever your number is as of this date. It's a total cumulative number for total service hours or total service project contributions. And my advice would be, figure out how you're going to keep track of it and then update this at some interval that you're comfortable with.
You could keep track on that service activities tab. I mean, as you're going through the year and marking your projects complete, you'll see at the very bottom there's a bar graph that shows progress, your projected, but then your achievement as well. So you really could look to this section as sort of your tally sheet if you start to get more and more comfortable with it. But then you can kind of see that second block there. You've got 40 hours achieved here. That could then go right back out to that Rotary Citation goal in the Goal Center and adjust it as you see fit throughout the year.
Okay, any last questions? Well, thank you all for joining us today. I hope you got something out of this session. We will post it so that if somebody wants to review it again, or if somebody hasn't seen the webinar, they can go and look at it. So if you've got somebody in your club that you want to see this, they can go see it. It'll probably take about 24 hours for us to post it on our YouTube channel. and TJ will let me know when it's done, and we'll send out a message to let people know, okay, here it is. Here's how it's available. It's 5:30. Thank you for your support and your involvement, and I guess that we are done. Thank you.